Watching that report, Father Tim Bartlett, who's an advisor to the Irish bishops, John O'Doherty, who chairs the Equal Marriage Northern Ireland campaign, the former Presbyterian moderator, Reverend Dr. Norman Hamilton, and the Minister of All Souls Church in Belfast, the Reverend Chris Hudson. Tim Bartlett, a large number of those who voted for gay marriage today in the Assembly would most likely see themselves as Catholic. You're not speaking their language here, are you?
Well, I think it suggests, as your own report says, that there's a long way to go in this debate. In fact, the debate is really only beginning in earnest here in the north of Ireland. And as a church, we want to engage very constructively, respectfully, with tolerance, sensitivity and compassion in that debate, and to listen very carefully to everybody involved.
But you've not obviously got your point of view across to those people in the Assembly who voted for the marriage today.
Well, there's still work to be done. As I say, the debate is only beginning. But let me say this. I think a lot of faithful Catholics feel increasingly abandoned by Sinn Féin on the abortion issue and on this particular issue. I think they feel abandoned by the SDLP on this issue, with all but a few very notable and worthy exceptions. And I want to commend those unionist politicians and others who are not afraid to say that their faith is important to the perspective they bring to society, its values and its laws, even though this issue is not in itself based only on a faith perspective. It's based on natural law.
John O'Doherty, does your group want this to be an issue of equality or a redefinition of marriage?
Well, it is an issue of equality, and the issue of equality is ensuring that the civil right of marriage is available to all. So it does remain an issue of equality.
So you want to redefine marriage, and it is not between a man and a woman?
Well, marriage in its history has constantly been redefined, and yes, we do want to see the redefinition from a civil perspective.
Well, in what way is it being redefined?
Well, from a civil perspective, we want to see marriage available to all, regardless of their sexual orientation. We've already seen this happen in 14 countries across the world, with more to come. It's a reality that Northern Ireland could remain the only part of these islands that doesn't recognise same-sex marriages. That will leave Northern Ireland behind the times. It will leave us in a difficult economic position, and it's something that we need to ensure.
Why would it leave us in a difficult economic position?
We have huge companies across the world, including Google and Microsoft, who are clearly in support of LGBT issues, who are clearly in support of equal marriage. For them to bring their money here, for them to invest here, and to bring their workers here, we need to ensure that we're providing the same rights as other parts of the world.
Chris Hudson, do you believe in the biblical interpretation of marriage?
I believe that the Bible is a guide to us, that the Bible directs us in certain ways.
So it's a guide, it's not a book of rules?
But it's not a book of rules, no. As a matter of fact, Jesus came to speak against the rules. But I think what's important, Paul, is that we look at the Bible and we look at Scripture with new eyes and with new generations, and we interpret according to how we see society evolving, developing in front of us.
Does interpretation mean changing?
Of course it does mean changing, but
so the fundamentals of the Christian faith are not as rock solid as perhaps others who would be Christian would say is.
No, the moral and the love and God's compassion and God's love is interpreted to be more inclusive. I mean, you could use the Bible to legalize slavery. The Bible has been used in so many ways to actually torment people. I see the Bible as God's love speaking to us and reinterpreting that to make society more inclusive. To extend marriage to same-sex couples is a loving thing to do.
We can't do that in Northern Ireland, but I understand that in your church you do extend a blessing within the church.
Yes, yes we do.
And is that a formal blessing? Is that countenanced by the church?
Well, I carry out a formal blessing in my church, and my session support it, my Kirk session in All Souls support it. But sadly, Paul, because of the law in Northern Ireland, unlike my sister churches in GB, the Unitarian churches can actually perform a civil partnership within their churches. But I am denied that right here, and my community are denied that right.
Norman Hamilton, are you opposed purely on religious grounds?
No, not at all, Paul. Part of our rationale here is that there's a real debate to be had, maybe even dare one say without it being aggressive, a battle for the norms that we want to have in our society over the long term.
Can you understand that homosexuality is an expression of human sexuality and that it is not chosen as a lifestyle choice?
I am very okay with that.
And that said, Could the church be more welcoming to people who are homosexual, gay, who feel that perhaps the church is a cold house for them?
Well, let me say unambiguously, Paul, that in no way do I want anybody, whatever their sexuality or their ethnic origin or whatever, to be in any way seen by the church as a second-class citizen. Absolutely not. But what I do want to argue for, and perhaps, and I think Father Tim along with me and many others, is that the historic understanding of marriage that the state adopts didn't simply appear on a Tuesday afternoon. It is actually based on a long-term understanding of biblical and Christian teaching. And to set that aside as the norm without proper, careful, deep, profound debate is, I think, politically nonsense.
If God's love is for everyone
Yep.
and is equal for
Yep.
everyone,
Yep.
why not equal under the law?
God's love is equal for everyone, but differentiation and equality are not incompatible. So for me, I have no difficulty in saying that the expression of love, for example, between two sisters is every bit as valid as the expression of love between myself and my wife.
Tim Bartlett, is the church a cold house for gay people?
Well, I think we have to constantly reflect on how we can ensure that everybody feels welcome and at home in the church. However, the God of love is also a God of challenge. He doesn't leave us unchallenged or unchanged. And I think that's part of the debate that's missing in the Christian context. We're also called to conversion and to a morally upright way of life. And the Bible guides us as to what that is.
John O'Doherty, are we to believe that the majority of gay people actually want gay marriage?
From my personal experience, yes, the majority of people that I speak to, not just LGBT people, but people from across these islands, want to see equal marriage introduced. And indeed, let me just say there was research carried out.
Because there was research in America which says that even though gay marriage is available in certain states, the uptake actually has been extremely low.
And I think that's an issue of choice. Not everyone is going to want to rush into a marriage. Just like heterosexual people don't want to rush into a marriage, gay couples shouldn't be expected to either. But let me just add,
Briefly,
research carried out across these islands with young people, and in particular here in Northern Ireland, identified that right across these islands, the number one issue for young people is marriage for all. And that was presented by the Northern Ireland Youth Forum.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming in tonight and talking about this issue. Well, many of you have been having your say on our website. Sarah in London wrote, "There ought to be no debate. Gay people deserve the same rights as everyone else." Reg in Tandragee wrote, "Thankfully, common sense prevailed over this matter." Seb in London wrote, "If Northern Ireland cannot legislate for equality, then Westminster must legislate for it." And Paul in Belfast wrote, "I'm gay and don't believe in gay marriage. Marriage is for a man and a woman. End of." Well, you can leave your comments at u.tv.